Hey, welcome to Ice Age TV, and I am in the Ford Tremor another day. People watch my videos and I get a lot of comments. You know, what the heck do you do? You know, how do you make the money? You know, and sincerely, yeah, I make good money, but I haven't always made good money. But I started off very young in my career, and you know, became kind of independent to be able to run my own company one day. So if you kind of want to get some little bit of information and kind of how I got going, I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut the video off for a second, because when you piece these videos, they download easier, better to manage them. So I'll give you a little background of how I kind of got going, if that's something that interests you. And you know what you learn in life is, you know, you kind of listen to other people's stories, and hopefully their story can help you. Or, you know, I know we all like to kind of talk about ourselves. And all right, so for me, you know, my true beginnings came from sales. And I started very young, even though for me, I came out of high school, didn't go to college, and got into the automotive industry, the auto parts industry, and worked in that for about 3 years, and worked at independent auto parts shop, and then worked at some dealerships. So, and even prior to that, in high school, I worked at gas stations. So, you know, my whole life has revolved around cars and trucks. Yeah, because, you know, high school, I'm filling up gasoline, you know, I'm gassing up cars and trucks. And then out of high school, I'm selling parts for cars and trucks. And then actually after that, I did go back to school for about a year to kind of freshen up some of my skills for reading and math, and, you know, took science and, you know, some just basic courses. And I moved on from the auto parts industry into the oil industry. And that was kind of a tough transition, because I was such the hands-on labor. You know, I really was a physical individual, where I used to do stocking, inventory for parts and everything, and working the counter. Then I went to kind of sitting behind the wheel of a truck, which that was very challenging for me, because I went from socializing with people all day to being, you know, all by myself. And that was, you know, for me, that was tough. I just about kind of gave that up, but I transitioned from driving a truck into management, and then I transitioned into sales. So that kind of saved me from leaving the oil industry, because it wasn't that I was going to be a truck driver the rest of my life delivering fuel. It was that I had the talent to do that, but also had the talent to manage people, and then eventually to break off on my own and be an independent commissioned salesman. And that was a very tough transition, being that I went from, you know, having an income to having no income, where now I had to, you know, prove myself, going out and, you know, creating my own customer base to make a living through commissions off of selling fuels, you know, gasoline, diesel, oil. And so when I transitioned to that, I did a lot of reading, and I tried to learn as much as I could, being a salesperson, to interact and communicate with people, and read some Harvard business books, and you know, and then just took the hard knocks of school, just having to go out and, you know, make sales calls and interact with people. And that wasn't easy, being very young and not really having any background per se of doing that. So when I was going through those challenging times, and it was incredibly challenging, because I had to go back to driving a fuel tanker truck and manage doing sales kind of back and forth. So I was working basically 7 days a week, being that I did sales, and I also did driving a fuel tanker on the weekends, and or I worked when other drivers wouldn't show up. So, you know, and that was a challenging time for me to say, hey, is it really worth all this to try to get into sales, to build up a customer base, to be able to create an income? And that took actually about 3 years of work for me to eventually be able to kind of break away from having to drive a tanker truck where I could actually make an income off of my commission sales and fuel. And in that time, you know, I looked to books. You didn't have the internet like you have it today. It didn't even exist. And, you know, DOS-based computers, you know, so you didn't have the resources to, like, learn a lot of stuff like you do today. So on my own, I did a lot of research on books, and I found one book that intrigued me and held to this day. To this day, this is a book called Think and Grow Rich, and it's a really good book. And it was written by a gentleman named Napoleon Hill, Napoleon Hill was a public speaker, and he actually was recruited by Dale Carnegie, the great magnet steel guy that was, you know, an exceptionally successful, wealthy person that built this country around steel. And Dale Carnegie had a vision where he wanted to find somebody that would go around the country and find out what makes people successful. And he wanted an individual to take this challenge on, and he would provide, you know, roof overhead and, you know, and food for the person that would go out and create a book that could hopefully teach others what makes people successful. And it's not all about success being the wealthiest guy in the world. It's overall a lot of things combined to make you successful in life. And so that book, you know, I read that book. We had a bump in the video here. So Dale Carnegie invited people into his office to do an interview on each individual that would maybe commit to doing this. And unbeknownst to the individual, would come into his office where he would explain what he would want them to do. He had a stopwatch. And the stopwatch was a 30-second limit that he would come to a decision if this was the right person or not. So he interviewed many people, and they couldn't come to a decision very quickly, and they just, you know, he wrote them off. But Napoleon Hill was the only individual at that time that came to his office, and within 30 seconds, he answered yes. He would commit to going around the country and talk to all types of people and individuals and find out what he felt made, you know, people successful, you know, in life. So after, you know, he did all this, and it took many years for him to accumulate his conversations with people, and he came to closure on writing a book called Think and Grow Rich, that he saw 12 steps that attributed to people's, you know, life, successful, you know, life. And when I read that book, I wrote down those 12 steps, and I read those for the most part, you know, many days when I would, you know, go to work and refresh, you know, what his 12 steps were. And so what he said is the number one thing he saw in people was, do you have a positive mental attitude? And I thought, wow, that's powerful. Then the second thing is, do you have sound physical health? And that's a great one. And then the third one, positive mental attitude, sound physical health. Do you have harmony in human relationships? And then do you have, number 4, freedom of fear? Number 5, hope for future achievement. Number 6, the capacity for applied faith. Number 7, willingness to share one's blessings with others. Number 8, to be engaged in labor of love. Number 9, open mind in all subjects to all people. 10, complete self-discipline. 11, knowledge in which to understand others. 12, financial security. So, you know, I'm not reading of anything. You just saw I kind of goofed up number 3. But I thought to myself, wow, those 12 things that he wrote down and I read just was like, that makes so much sense, because as we know, as individuals, you know, when you get out of bed every day, do you have a positive mental attitude? You know, how's your health? You know, what's your capacity for applied faith? What's your willingness to share your blessings with others? What's your, are you engaged in labor of love? I mean, do you have an open mind on all subjects, to all people? Do you have complete self-discipline? I mean, oh my gosh, and so if you write down these 12 things that I just said, or you get the book and you write them down and you go through a checklist, and I can pretty much assure you that the odds are you're not going to be able to check off every one of those things. And then if you look around the people that you know, it's the same thing. It's very challenging, but it's a really good foundation from what I worked off of when I got my career going, because they're just such basic values in life. And if you really do look at that and you really do try to commit to following those steps, you should be a successful person. And does that mean you're a wealthy person? I'm not here to promote because you read a book called Think and Grow Rich, it's going to make you wealthy. It's not. But if you read a book that's Think and Grow Rich, and it has the steps and foundation of life to show you how you can be successful, then I think that's a powerful tool. And for me, I've seen the motivational speakers, and I think there's the good and the bad, and they're just about making money off you buying material or going to their rally or whatever you want to call it. But I honestly believe that this book is a great tool to the fundamentals of life. And what I really like about it is there's a 13th step, and it's actually it's the best of all. And what he claims is if you master all 12 steps, you will then be rewarded with the 13th. And the 13th step is you will have intuition. You will just know that it's just, oh my gosh. So I've just had a total brain blip of what that 13th, the sixth sense. Oh my gosh. Driving and talking isn't easy. So the 13th is the sixth sense. So then you just develop that nature in you, who you are. You just know. You just understand things, and you just know things. And I can, tell you from my life experiences that is true. And especially as you get older, and yes, some people have incredible talents. I'm not here to promote that you read this book and then, you magically get the sixth sense, or there's others around you that just seem to have the sixth sense. But I think that attributes to, what I say, are you a master of your domain? God is our master of our domain, right? That's kind of how this physical world seems to, for the most part, operate. And if you're brought up religiously, you understand that. But then you need to step back and look at yourself. Are you the master of your domain with God's presence? Do you understand who you are? This is a little far-fetched off my car videos, but at the same time, I have a lot of people reach out to me like, how did you do it? What are you doing? And, and unsincerely, I've gone through a lot of challenges in my life, financially, relationships, and, and I've risen above them. I can honestly tell you that I've had failures, but in my eyes, if you don't have failures, that means you ain't trying. So, and I think, unfortunately, we all hold failures, and I think we sometimes get a little too deep on that, because we all have failures. But usually those failures, if you handle it right, will, hopefully make you bigger and better. And you know what? That's been my story in my life. The failures have actually made me a bigger and better person, and even a more compassionate person. So, kind of wrapping that up with some people said I kind of ramble on. Well, I hope that wasn't a rambling, ramble on there, but that's kind of what I hope all of you can watch, and hopefully some of you learn something. And if anything, hope you can go and get that Think and Grow Rich book. Or hey, I'm not here preaching to anybody. I'm sharing information, and hopefully you come to terms that works for you. have a great day as I continue to drive around my F-150 Tremor and have a lot of fun.